welcome to one more podcast of Save It, Spend It, Share It. I'm very glad to have you for one more episode, and I have some guests today. This is a very special episode because for the first time we have two guests in our podcast. Normally we only have one, so today we have two guests. So it's very exciting, and I'm going to ask you, can you please introduce yourself?
I am Velino Salazar, former pastor in the Southern California Conference. Now I retired, and I'm happy to be here.
Enjoying retirement, so thank you for coming out today.
My pleasure.
Hi, I'm Jim Brown. I'm the former president of Western Adventist Foundation. I am also semi-retired.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I've been working for the Seventh-day Adventist Church since 1988 in plan giving and trust services, and it's just a blessing, and I'm still going to work part-time for a little bit longer to help people.
Wow, amazing. I'm a little envious, You
want to retire early?
Yes, that would be amazing. But I'm sure that you've already gone through a lot of years of working, and now it comes a moment to enjoy. It comes in a moment to enjoy another phase of life, right?
Yes.
Another season. And that life goes through different seasons, right? Season to go to school, be excited, go to college, having that first job, right? That moment that you're excited because you can't wait to prove the world everything you have. But, as we go through seasons, there are seasons that we enjoy and seasons that we don't look forward to. And even though there's not a time dedicated for us to die, we know that it's a moment that will come. And I think that no one prepares for that because we avoid thinking about that moment, We look forward in amazing moments of the time that we're going to be able to be married, to have a job, to move to a place, to go on vacation, to explore the world. But when it comes to death, it's something that we prefer not to talk about it, right? So today we're going to explore a little bit about this season in life that comes. We want to be prepared because even though we are not expecting that moment, we want to make sure that we are prepared. And not only for us, because we're not going to be able to be conscious anymore, right? But what about our loved ones? How can we care for them even when we are not here? And that's why I'm excited about this podcast, because I want to know, how can I protect, I have two children. How can I protect them? How can I make sure that they're taken care of, even though I'm not going to be around anymore? So how do you see this moment in life? How do you see a moment to prepare ourselves?
That is a very interesting topic, And for a disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not giving legal advice. But people who often prepare, plan, work on their estate plan, their will, the trust, or whatever that, they actually get a sense of relief that they've put in place what their desires are. And in the state of California, if you don't have a will, guess what? The state of California has one for you.
Wow.
And so you mentioned your
Automatically.
children. Automatically. It's called intestate succession, to where you die without a will. And so you mentioned your children. Who do you want to be the parents of your children if you're not here? If you don't decide through a estate plan, will, document, guess what? The courts will decide who will take care of your children. And most people in Southern California remember Michael Jackson. He didn't have a will. His estate was being fought for over a year on just who gets to take care of his children. And why? Because there's money. And money is what drives a lot of people to make decisions they shouldn't. But if you put together your will and, appropriately with, I would suggest an attorney, then you're not going to have those decisions to worry about later.
And you mentioned a case that it's very well known, and someone that had, the money and the contacts to be able to prepare. So a misconception or something that I've often heard is, well, I don't have any money. Why should I even go or, protect myself? I have no money, so I die and that's it.
Yeah.
How would you approach that?
Okay, back again. Everybody who's 18 years old or over should have a will. And I know people that I'm only 20 years old. Guess what?
Yes.
I have a friend who riding his motorcycle down the freeway. A freight truck, the back door opened up. A pallet jack flew out, killed him.
Unexpected.
But someone came by him and did CPR, brought him back to life. In the ambulance, he died again. They brought him back to life. In the ER, he died again. They brought him back to life. After all that episode, he's got millions of dollars. So you never know. But he didn't have any money before that. But so things happen in our lives that we don't ask for, we don't expect, but you could become a multimillionaire overnight, or your estate. So if you died and you received a lot of money through whatever means, now your estate has to deal with those monies. Who's going to get them? Who's going to fight over it? If you have a will, you can direct all that.
So yes, it's very important that we recognize that what God has given us, it's for us to enjoy and continue being a blessing to others, those that are around us, to continue funding the mission. But sometimes these topics get very overwhelming, because I'm sure that over the years that you've studied and you've gone through so many different situations, you can see that this world is just so overwhelming. So someone like me that is just hearing information for the first time and I'm getting ready, what are the options available? Could you walk us through some scenarios of what is a starting point?
Well, a starting point is getting your mind, your thoughts in order. What do you have? Who do you want to share it with? And what do you want to be remembered by with what you share?
Okay, so let's stop there for a second. Okay, so right now, anyone that's listening should get out a piece of paper, right?
Yes.
Make some columns, kind of like a draft starting point.
Yes.
So we can start, okay, what I own, and kind of go over each one of them. Like, don't say, well, I don't have any money, just any account that you have available, right? Any savings account, any account that any investments, you want to make sure that you list them. And then who would you like to give this money to, right?
Yes.
Make a list of those that are near to your heart, and then you mentioned something else.
Well, legacy, we always have this unique desire to be remembered for something. Doesn't matter who you are, but you always want to do something good. And so through your estate plan, you just want to make a remembrance, a designation in your estate plan to a worthy cause. And there's so many different worthy causes, but it's what you want to be remembered by.
Yeah,
That's
something
important.
that you have your heart in.
Yes.
Wow, I like that, because that's starting to feel a little bit easier to process. Get a list. What do I do next?
Yeah. So once you have your list, then you would contact the conference, and they have a service to help put together your estate plan with a licensed attorney. And then through that process, you can get a viable estate plan that includes power of attorneys. We haven't talked about that, but a power of attorney for healthcare and a power of attorney for finances. It's really important that you're not going to buy a car and say, I don't want the wheels. So you need the full package.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's say that we're going to draft a will. What are some things, what's some advantages that will protect a new family with the children and having a will?
Well, again, in your will, you will designate who will raise your children for you. Do you want your parents, your in-laws, or your brother and sister, your cousin? If you don't decide, again, the state of California will decide for you. So you really want to put in place who's going to take care of your children. Obviously, you're going to have your spouse, but if you both die in an accident together or something like that, you want to take care of your children. And then, but some people do an estate plan, a will, and they don't update it. Well, when you have another child, you want to remember that child too. And grandparents who want to leave a gift to their grandchildren, every time they get a new grandchild, they better update their will. But again, that's legalese, and that's what the attorneys are for. But anytime there's a significant change in your life, you need to memorize that.
Wow.
Memorialize.
In a will.
Yeah.
What other options are available aside from having a will?
Well, then you go into revocable trusts, also known as a living trust. They're the same thing. But a living trust is, if done correctly, can avoid probate.
Okay.
It doesn't always, because sometimes we buy a piece of property and we forget to list that in the trust. And so that property will have to go through probate to get put into the trust for your successor trustee to manage. And so it's very important that you use an attorney to put together a living trust, if that's what you want to do. And what that does, most of the time, it avoids probate.
Okay, and what is probate?
Probate is the legal process of taking what you have, and you go to the court, and the judge reviews what you have and reviews who you're going to give it to, and an attorney will show up in court on your behalf. And so the process is called probate. It's where the courts will decide who gets what. And also someone can contest that. So if you forget, your brother or someone like that, and that's a lot of legal stuff. But if you don't list all your children, your unlisted child can contest the will in probate.
And that process could go anywhere from how much?
6 months to 6 years.
6 months to 6 years during the whole process and going back and forth in court and everything. So all this could be avoided if we plan and have something available.
Yes, it
with
can.
Instructions.
Yeah, most of the time it can be avoided. I've seen cases to where there isn't, but that's just because of greed. And so a good attorney can put together a good estate plan that will most likely avoid probate and follow your wishes, and it's very efficient. But on a side note, your successor trustee, the person you put in charge when you pass away, better know what they're doing, or they can mess it up real bad.
So you want to make sure that your trustee is someone reliable and someone you trust in, that will carry on your instructions.
Yeah, and has someone who has the business sense to process what needs to be processed. That's really important.
So, you mentioned something about the family and, going back and forth. And that's something that we commonly see, right? While there's no funds that you're seeing, you're fine, everyone's happy. But as soon as some of it is available, then disagreements start popping up. Elder Salazar, I know that you just mentioned, unfortunately, that your father passed away recently. But one of the things that he wanted to make sure is he wanted to have a plan. And I'm sure because I know that he was a person that had everything planned out, right? You've mentioned to me that he had a folder for everything.
Correct.
He liked managing everything in that way. So he was so organized in all his things that he also wanted to make sure that he had a plan in place. Could you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah. Our father, he passed away at the age of 96. So then after his retirement, 35, 36 years ago, he enjoyed retirement. But when the last years, he called my brother and I. We are only two boys. And he shared with us information that he considered for us very important for us to know. And pretty much he gave us a piece of paper with all the information about the banks, credit cards, and insurances, all of this, and contact numbers. And along with this also, and he shared with us that he already had a piece of property in a cemetery already. And when we opened the folder, we saw that he already had chosen his casket and the services that he wanted to have. So then my brother and I would say, okay, now this is going to be easier. And yes, that is something that now, after his passing, we realized that it was not complicated for us. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to argue. We didn't have to fight. We didn't have to...
Or make decisions.
Decisions on that. And one piece that I want to mention here is that a few weeks before his passing, then we already knew, because also he had mentioned to us in person, he gave us his health directives. It was a single piece of paper, was not a document, as Jim already mentioned, that with an attorney, seal, and all that. No, it was a piece of paper with his handwriting saying that he didn't want to have resuscitation, no intubation, and being disconnected when we see appropriate. Simple. So that is something that definitely, when the moments that we realized that his health was really going down, then my brother and I, we pretty much said, well, let's do what Dad wanted. And we gave instructions to the medical staff, and they became surprised and said, well, this is what he wanted. And we showed them this is what he wanted. So then they were confident that whatever did or they didn't do was according to decisions that he already had made. So then he avoided completely the argumentation, the conflict, and discussions that sometimes this happen in family.
Yeah. And you know, it's hard having someone, for example, in the hospital, or someone suddenly in a car accident or any. So it's difficult for the family to make those kind of decisions. So what is a health directive? You know, you mentioned something, but could you expand a little bit about a health directive?
Well, as Elder Salazar said, a health directive is instructions. It's just basic instructions. And what it's really important is you put someone in charge who can carry out the wishes and desires. Sometimes I've seen a lot of fights, but you need to put one person in charge who can make the tough decisions when it's time. And if they're not willing to do it, get a backup. You always have an alternate. And again, it needs to be someone who you have confidence that they can make the tough decisions that you put in place, because they could override your decisions. If they're the power of attorney for healthcare, they could keep you sustained. They could make decisions that are not in your desires. So make sure you have someone who will carry out your wishes and desires.
Yeah, that will respect your wishes, basically.
Yeah.
And, you know, another thing that you mentioned is that you were able to take care of your parent, your father, your mom. You have been able to take care of them. And they already had a plan of you to follow, right? But they were fortunate that they had children that could take care of them. When you have someone that does not have any children, you know, what are the options available for them?
That can be really, really tough. You know, over the years, I have been the power of attorney for healthcare for some trust stores. It's no longer recommended, but yeah, I took care of a lady. She never had married. She never had children. She was alone. And we planned her funeral together. And she was so excited. And then she says, "Oh, I'm going to be in that stupid box." But no, we sat down and we did her whole, the preacher, the singers, everything. We did it all. And so she asked me to take care of her, and I did. And she had a nice estate, let's just put it that way. And she did a lot for the church in many areas, and she really blessed the church. And because she had no one to give it to, but yet she did take care of some nieces and nephews.
Wow. And yeah, it's important to have, always kind of going back to the same topic, someone that you trust.
Yes.
Someone that is close to you, someone that knows you, so they can continue on with the instructions that you have given out. You know, it's been so interesting having this conversation, and I think that there's so many other things that we need to cover. So we're going to have to make a second episode to be able to extend this conversation. That way we can have enough material. Right now, we've already kind of laid out the plan, right? These are the options available to anyone that's listening. Going back to the discussion of, you are right now learning about this, and you want to make sure that you have your affairs in order. So first thing, get out a piece of paper and lay out everything you have, investment accounts, savings accounts, stocks, anything that you have available, your properties, and then go ahead and make a list. Like, spend some time. Who would I want to benefit with the work of my hands?
Yes.
Who would I want to benefit? And the third area that I would like you to think about, it's the legacy. How would I like to be remembered? How can I impact in the mission of the work? You know, we have been given the command of go out and make disciples, so that everyone, you know, God's intention is for everyone to hear about this wonderful message of love, wonderful message of hope, that death is not the end. Yes, we need to prepare, we need to plan, but hope is not the end. And what a blessing assurance it is to know that there is hope in Jesus Christ. So we'll end the episode today. Thank you very much for being with us today, and we'll see you in our next episode.